Welcome to Around the Bases, the pop culture and sports podcast with your host.
Charlie Seymour.
And I'm Tim Sternberg. Hit it, Nick. Here we are with another awesome week of Around the Bases, the pop culture and sports podcast. Charlie, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. I went up to New York for the last shoot for this commercial campaign that I'm in. Had a great time. As a result, you and I haven't been up to date because we released an episode last week that was a little delayed, so we haven't been up to date on. So if you're listening to us, thank you, by the way. But also, we do understand that Deal or No Deal Island already happened last week, but we had recorded that before it happened, so yeah, that a little magic of the, maybe I shouldn't say that, but the magic of the podcast. You doing good, buddy?
I'm doing great. You got to go to see your team play in person in regular season game. So have I.
Yes, you did. You flew to Arizona, and you saw them play the Diamondbacks, and you're going to today, as this show airs, to see them at Wrigley Field, right?
I'm actually not going to the home opener. No, I was at the domestic opener in Arizona, and then we
Wait,
also went to the second game.
did you negotiate that with your partner? Is that he got the
Yes,
opener?
yes.
Yes, okay.
I already felt like I
Not that
got
you don't want to.
right. Exactly. I felt it would be fair. So,
So you're going to
but
Saturday's game?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. Is
Yeah.
there a giveaway?
I don't believe there is one on Sunday.
Who
But
who the
there's a magnet schedule tomorrow that I'll get one from my rep, so it's okay.
who are they playing? Who are they opening up with?
They are playing the undefeated San Diego Padres.
Wait, are they undefeated?
Padres are 7-0 in second place.
Wait, so the Dodgers and the Padres are 7-0?
But the Dodgers are 8-0. Don't forget they played
Oh,
in those two in
I
Tokyo.
want to forget that.
Yeah,
Wow.
isn't that wild?
Wow. Wow. To have a team that is 7-0 in second place. It's quite something.
Yeah,
Yeah. And how the Cubs doing? The Cubs are doing pretty damn good.
Cubs are 5-2 since they got to the United States, 5-4 overall.
That's pretty awesome.
Pretty happy about that, considering they played
Yeah.
four in Arizona, four against the A's, and the two against the Dodgers in Japan. So to be 5-4 after an 0-2 start, I think most Cubs
So
fans would have signed up for that ahead of time.
So, buddy, I feel like it's deja vu, but not quite. But the Mets do not have a winning record currently.
But they do not have a losing record.
They do not. It's not like last year where it was all doom and gloom going into April.
And
You
to
know,
some fans out there,
listen,
it is.
dude. Oh, I know. And we talked about how crazy the Mets fan base is. I love you guys, but my God, we're an emotional bunch. Um, but dude. So you mentioned this a few minutes ago. I did see them here in Miami play the Marlins. I went to the rubber game of the three-game series against the
Which the
Marlins.
Mets won and took the series.
Oh, wait, before I get to that, I was gonna say, first of all, it was the last away game before the home opener, which is happening today. We are playing the Blue Jays. Hi, David Schneider. We want to win. Sorry, buddy. But I will say that it wasn't looking good in the beginning of the game, and by the time I was on the road in Miami, because I do leave the game early a little bit, and I know the purists hate that. I'm sorry, but if you fight Miami traffic, it still took me 2.5 hours to get home or whatever it was. Um, we were losing until a certain polar bear. I'm
Your
telling you,
guy,
I
your
was
guy.
so happy he was re-signed. Listen, it's not a fluke. Pete Alonso does this. He's like, fuck
He's a
that.
steady
He's
presence.
like, I want this game to win. I want this team to win. Fuck that. We're gonna hit a home run, and that's exactly what he did. He is. I am overjoyed that we re-signed him. It was an important signing. Yes, he's might not be as powerful as Aaron Judge sometimes, but you know
Is
what?
anybody except for Shohei?
Right. But you know what?
and maybe Kyle Tucker.
I'll take right. Exactly. I agree. Kyle Tucker, Mr. Cub. Not as Ernie Banks, but you know what I'm saying.
Hey,
Um,
if the Cubs extend him, he could be Mr. Cub 2.0.
but I will take Pete Alonso any day over almost all of those. I mean, I love Kyle Tucker. I hope you guys actually sign him. So I'm very pleased that we won the game and we did win the series, and that was a kind of good way to go home and to City Field and face the Blue Jays, which I'm kind of excited that that would be our first series of the year. It's always, since the last couple of years, it's funny how we're facing an American League team to start the season. It's just always so odd to me.
Yeah, I know. We've already played an AL team as well. So
You have, and we're and out next our next road trip, we're going to Oakland like you, and we're playing the A's at the spring training
you're
facility
going to
that wasn't a spring
Sacramento.
training. Yeah, we're I will. It'll probably be until they go to Vegas. I'll keep saying Oakland, but yes, our team is going to Sacramento to play in the AAA stadium that is over there.
Well,
You
Cubs did pretty well hitting in that park. I think your year lineup will like that park as well.
I have to say, I think so too. I have to say, watching the Rays play in Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, it has, because I've just experienced it, it still feels like spring training. Like
Hmm.
watching it, it feels like spring
You can still
training.
see cars in the background going over the highway.
Yes. And not only that, I don't know if you saw this we're members of this of Facebook group. They're still doing the lineups like it's spring training on the handwritten line.
Yeah.
It's kind of charming. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I might have to get up to Tampa to see a game there. I've
You
never
should
gone to spring
absolutely do it.
training. I do love the fact that the Rays covered up almost all of the Yankee signage, and the Yankees are coming to town to play as the away team in their own spring training facility soon, which is going to be interesting. Yeah, and going back real quick to the Marlins Mets, the Marlins opened up the roof. Thank you. There is something, and you know this from going to Wrigley all the time, almost. There's something about watching baseball in the open air, the sunlight, you can hear the crack of the bat better. It's just magical. Airplanes flying over, seeing downtown Miami. It is, it is a beautiful sight in Miami to watch a ball game. When they close the roof, it could be anywhere else in the country, and it's generic and boring and all that stuff. It is not fun. I know people are like, "Oh, the roof is closed." The only positive is it's nice and air conditioned, and I love that. But it was really sweet to see the roof opened. It's a rarity. It doesn't happen often. But when it does that, I was telling Erica,
So would you say your luck factored into that a little bit?
yeah, maybe my timing, a little strategy. No, it's my luck. But it's funny you mentioned that because I think I was telling Erica, I think in all the years that Marlins Park opened in 2012 and all the years it's been open, I think I've been to an open roof maybe three times, and one of those times was the All-Star game in 17. So, wow.
Yeah, so one of two other times.
Yeah, I mean, and the All-Star game was in
And
the
it was
middle of
your
July.
Mets.
And it was
Your
my
Mets
Mets,
too.
my Mets, and I was sitting there rooting. I was yelling "Go Mets" to Soto. Soto, we were in left field and right behind Soto, and it was just a good. It was fun. It was a good day. And you know what? What can you do for $10 a ticket? Welcome to Miami.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's Miami. I mean, and in the whole, I was talking because we're all Mets fans there. Basically, I call it City Field South. The dude next to me is a Mets fan, so I talk to people, and we were talking, and I'm like, listen, do you ever see City Field with the open deck like that? And he's like, no. Basically there was nobody up in the upper upper level seats at all. And it's kind of sad, for a baseball fan like us to see that because I want to see the sport thrive. And in Miami, I want to see it thrive. I remember very well going 97 to the World Series, and it was electric at Joe Robbie Stadium, which is now Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins play. That's where the Marlins used to play, the Florida Marlins used to play. And I miss that part. I miss that. I was rooting against the Indians and rooting for the Marlins, and Yeah. So, what are your so how are you feeling these? Because I've been talking a lot. How do you feel the season's been going?
I mean, it's a great start to the baseball season, honestly. It's been exciting. We've got so many different talking points, maybe a certain torpedo.
Can we talk about that? What the freaking bat? What is going on
Honestly,
with
I
the
can't believe
Yankees?
well, first of all, let's not it's not the Yankees. They have a couple players using it.
Oh,
They're just the
you're
ones
being
who are
nice.
I'm
Oh,
not being nice. I'm being honest.
I know.
Everyone's jumping on the Yankees because they saw that
And
one
you
game.
hate the Yankees, so
I
for you to
do.
defend the Yankees,
I'm
you're an
not
honest guy.
I'm not really
Listen,
defending them. I'm just defending the situation because the first game of the season, the Yankees scored 4 runs and nobody said peep. Why was nobody talking about the first game? That's why. And then, they Judge hit let's not forget Judge hit 3 of those homers. Judge is clearly not using the torpedo bat. So,
well, and to be
frankly,
fair,
I'm surprised it's taken this long in Major League Baseball for any sort of innovation to bats. If you think about it, it's like the most important piece of equipment in the game, and it's never changed. They got all sorts of things for pitchers, revolutionizing spin rate, a million things. It's about time the hitters got something.
so I was going to ask you. It's my understanding torpedo bats have been around a long time. They're not really a
They
new
have.
thing. I
They
mean,
have been around a
they're
long
just being
time.
used now on the major league
More
level.
prevalently, yes.
Yeah, but they've been, it's not like all of a sudden, there was a scientist over the winter and it's like, I'm going to invent the torpedo bat. I'm going to go ahead and put it together. That's not what happened.
And in fact, the guy who invented them is currently employed by the Marlins. Did you know that?
I do know that.
Yeah,
Yes. I would like to see some magic happening with the Marlins.
yeah. There's Dansby Swanson and Nico are the two Cubs that have used it a little bit. Dansby's hit a homer with it.
Ansberry, love
Nico
him.
hasn't. I mean, there's some guys that no, is Lindor one of them who's using it too?
I
I know
think so.
he started slow as a few guys
Although,
are doing pretty poorly with it, but that's just baseball. I think
but
Terry Francona said it well. He said they asked Francona about it, and he said, "I think it's more of the magician, not the wand."
it is. I agree with that. The wand is a tool. It's like, you can't not everyone can fix a sink or a car. I mean, anybody can take a screwdriver and try to unscrew something. It doesn't mean that it's going to be effective. I agree with that.
Hmm.
Speaking of Lindor, I mean, he's off to a really rough start for the season, but that's not unusual.
Yeah,
Lindor
he does
gets
it every
into
year.
patches. Yeah.
People freak out, and we'll be talking maybe not maybe a month, maybe less. He'll be his normal indoor self. He'll have had a big like 2 homer game, big clutch
I'm
hit.
I'm not worried.
Yeah, Lindor
The
will be just
Mets,
fine.
and we know this, and the Mets typically start off slow, so it's not a
And
surprise.
just for some perspective, the Mets, who Lindor started slow, are still 3-3. One of their rivals is 0-7.
Thank you for mentioning that. I need you to mention
So
that. Thank you. Wait,
this is
wait.
one. So
Would
this is
that be the Bravos?
that would be, which means the Mets are already 3.5 games, four in the loss column up, and we're 10 days into the season.
Dude, I
So,
read something that says no team that's ever started 0-7 went on to win the World Series. I like that.
yep. And it's been like 42 years since
What's going
we've
on
had a
with the
winning record.
Braves? Is it the injuries you think it's
I
really
think it's
hurting
just they
them?
started against the Padres and the Dodgers their first seven. Just so I mean, yeah. To your point, let's not forget that within the next anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, they're going to be adding Acuna, Strider, and Murphy. So they'll add some
Yeah.
pieces.
I'm
But
not, listen,
a really
if
interesting
it
stat that I saw, which is current odds right now. So this I thought was worth. So the Padres are 7-0. Okay. The Braves are 0-7. What do you think the current odds are for each team to win their respective division? San Diego, 7 wins, 0 losses. Braves, 0-7.
I think San Diego actually doesn't have greatest odds because their division has the Dodgers.
And the Dodgers are 8-0. You would be
Exactly.
correct.
Yeah.
And then to put that in perspective, if you want to take a guess at the numbers, or
No,
I'll just tell you.
Yeah, tell me. I have no
The
idea.
Braves at 0-7 are given a 33% chance to win the East, 1-3. The Padres at 7-0 are given a 5% chance, 1-20.
Isn't that crazy?
Shows you how
What
good the Dodgers are.
what's the percentage on the Phillies and the Mets?
This was the tweet was just targeted at the two teams that were
Uh,
7-0 and 0-7.
because if they're 33, then I would say the Phillies and the Mets are also 33. I mean,
Yeah, probably pretty close to it because you'll probably have the Marlins at 0 and the Nationals at like 0.5%.
yes.
Honestly, it's probably pretty close to just
Although
one third each.
I
Although the
know it's
Phillies at
early,
5-1, yeah, maybe
the
35% Phillies, 30 Mets, who knows?
I have to give credit. I mean, the Marlins have started off surprisingly not as bad as I thought they would have, and so have the White Sox.
The Marlins are 3-1 against everybody
Yeah.
but the Mets.
Yes.
Mets knocked them down a peg. The Mets had to knock down those mighty Marlins.
Mind you, the mighty Marlins played the Pittsburgh Pirates to start the season,
They
but
did. They did. But hey,
yeah.
the Pirates all of a sudden have won a game now that they didn't play the Marlins. So
Wait, did Skeens start that game?
Skeens did start that game.
Yeah, I was just saying. And Sandy, so the rumors now I'm hearing too is Sandy Alcantara. The Mets are really pushing for him. Met players want him on the team.
Yeah, they saw him pitch firsthand against them. So
But here's the thing. I don't know how I don't I don't know how prone the Marlins would be to trade them to another.
within a division trade, yeah, not
Yeah.
that common.
And I don't want to call them division rivals. I mean,
Hey, but the
I would
Marlins,
just
love to save money, and Steve Cohen likes to spend it. So
he
from that
does, and Bruce
standpoint,
Sherman loves to get it. Yes. You're right.
couple million in cash and a scrub prospect or two.
Okay, I have to bring this up, because we had an interesting conversation with our buddy Nicholas Pepin through text, although our buddy Nicholas didn't really say much about it. The conversation was more between you and I. And I want to bring this up because there's been a graphic, you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about. There's been a
yes,
graphic
it's
circling
still being
around
shared.
that has gotten my friend Charlie
Let's
quite
preface it
irritated.
with an incredibly misleading graphic.
Uh, it got Charlie quite. I haven't seen you this irritated. You are usually an even keel guy. You were pissed at this graphic. This did not make
It
you
was literally
happy.
like the fifth different time I have received a text about this same graphic.
So let
And
me
I was like,
share.
oh my God,
Let me
enough
set
is
it up.
enough.
I need to set up how this happened. So, you know me, I am not the statistics guy like Charlie. Charlie knows all this stuff, and I don't think as logically as you do. I will admit that. So I send him innocently. I didn't know it was gonna start like an explosion. Not really, but I sent innocently, I sent Charlie this text, and I'm like, oh, she, and it was basically it's a chart, a misleading chart. I will preface it for you. It's a misleading chart of the amount of revenue the team gets per the amount of payroll, and a percentage of payroll to revenue of each team. And of course, the Miami Marlins are at the bottom of the list. And I said, when I sent it, I'm like, yeah, Bruce Sherman, one of the cheapest owners in baseball, but look at that percentage, and he is still making buck. Where Charlie replied that correct me if I'm wrong, that the chart doesn't include operational costs, like how much what it takes to run a team. I
Ballpark
just
operations, international scouting. There's
So the Mets are at the top at
it doesn't
90%.
include about 12 things.
So my question to you, and we didn't get into this in text. And by the way, Nick, this is a normal conversation Charlie and I have, so we're all right. But at the top of the list, the Mets at this on this misleading graphic, payroll and revenue 90%. If I'm figuring in baseball operations like you, and I don't know what that number is, Cohen's
The
losing. Cohen has to be losing money on the operation, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
One, they said that with the first season Cohen owned the Mets, he lost over $100 million. Something I believe was
Which to
their
him is nothing, I have to preface,
right
but
drop in the bucket.
right, but still, I mean, he's losing
Yeah.
money.
So
So
the interesting one that is there is using the Braves as an example because they're a publicly owned team, so their records are available. So, for example, this chart's very available if you're listening and care to look at it. But the
Mhm.
Braves were 17th on the chart. Okay, they're listed at 510 million for revenue, and
Mhm.
they're listed at 235 for payroll. So, according to this chart, 46.1% of their payroll goes against the revenue, essentially. But the Braves baseball operations department's budget was 500 million, yet this chart, according to the chart, they're only listing it at 235. So essentially, they're leaving out $265 million of it. And that's just one team. Obviously, the
So
Marlins probably have a much lower, ballpark operations. They probably spend less in scouting, and there's for
100%.
sure that part was 100% accurate. But the point was that, like that, them alone, you can see that the Braves 510 divided by 235 for 46.1% really should have been about 510 divided by 500 for like 1%.
So the Braves are losing money too on the operation, it seems. And
They're
their
probably running.
payroll,
There's also probably money that they're making that's not on this list as well. There's more to it than just revenue. They're
because their
probably
payroll is not exactly. I mean, one of the things they're known for is being able to sign players within a
lock them up
reasonable.
young. They do a
Right.
great job identifying their own young talent. And actually, that's a perfect segue into we've seen a number of this week alone, a couple of young players getting those similar long extensions. Jackson Merrill,
Garrett Crochet.
Crochet was the first one about a
Yep.
week
The
ago.
Red
He's a little
Sox.
older though, because he was about to be a free agent. But Jackson Merrill of San Diego, and then the Red Sox signed Christian Campbell. Back to back days, you had guys getting some big deal. Kettle Marte signed as well, but he's older, so not quite the same. But yeah,
I mean, I would
three big contracts were told out in like a 2 day span.
thinking the Mets might want to at some point make a move with Vientos to do
And
something like that.
Cubs fans are talking about the same thing with maybe PCA or Shaw. So it's a hot trend right now. It makes a
PCA.
lot of sense for both sides, And not every
Because
one
there's
of
a
those big
risk being taken by both sides
exactly.
at that point that's
A
kind of
player could get
equal.
hurt, could bust,
Right.
versus they can also get huge guaranteed money. So it could be a win for both sides in some cases. A lot of people seem to have been a little upset. They thought Jackson Merrill maybe took a little heavier of a team friendly deal than he should have to maybe hurt the market for future players. But like if you're a guy like Merrill, I mean, how are you going to turn down $135 million when you've made barely a couple million in your career? So
How old is the kid? Like 20,
yeah, he might be 21 or
21?
22 now. Yeah,
My God.
he's
You're
very young.
if you and you're the again, if you take that money and invest it in the right way, you're set for life. Like I mean, you're set for life anyway, but my God. I
Merrill's
mean,
21.
21 years old, he'll never have to work again once he's
April
out of
19th, he
baseball.
turns 22.
He'll marry a nice girl and settle down and have a wonderful life. And you know what? At the end of the day, I know, but at the end of the day, if Juan Soto signed for $600 million, it would have been,
Right. He
it's
wouldn't have
all
been struggling.
relative, right? And at 100 million, listen, if you said right now, hey Tim, I'm going to give you 100 million. Okay. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what? But yeah, good for the kid. Good for the kid to make that money. Go
Yeah.
for it. And good for the team to take a chance on that kid to invest. I think Bobby Witt Jr. Did something similar, right?
He
The
signed a
Royals.
massive deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but much bigger deal. But still, I mean, it was smart of the Royals to lock him up because I think he would have been a monster in free agency.
Hmm.
And he's not anywhere near free agency yet. He signed. Witt was the same year as Adley Rushman, so there's a couple of years left in that contract, I believe,
Yeah.
in before free agency. Um, yeah, so I mean, I'm excited for baseball, bro.
Yeah.
I hope
It's alive and kicking.
the Cubs kick butt, the Mets kick butt, and we just keep going.
Yeah. It's a good start to the baseball season.
Absolutely. Speaking of good starts, you had paid attention and said, "Hey, Tim, you got to check out this new show on Netflix called Million Dollar Secret." And we're not going to get into spoilers. We're going to make some general kind of
Yeah.
comments.
It's still pretty new.
Um, I find it's like the cross between The Trust, The Mole and
Claim to fame a little, I
Claim to
see.
Fame. Yeah. You know
Even a
that
little
that
traitors, because you got kind of like the round table.
yeah, and you have the butler guy. I don't know what he is, but the guy that's in the
Mm-hmm.
British guy. Um, that you know that challenge with the heads, and it's in the like the last three
With
episodes,
the
I would
water
say.
balloons.
Yeah, that reminded me of Claim to Fame a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it kind of seemed like that was a familiar
The whole
challenge.
concept of the trophy room reminds me of Claim to Fame, where they go in to
Yes,
find clues.
yes, very much so. Instead of bottles, there is a British guy telling them what the clue
Yeah.
is.
Honestly,
Um,
we watched it pretty quickly. Both, so they dropped the first three episodes last Wednesday and then the new three. And both times we did not really have any intention of watching all three. And it's like, wow, before we knew it, we had finished all three of them.
I don't know about you. I will say this: Netflix has a great way of showing a reality show shine like it's a movie, almost like you're watching a reality show, but it's like you're watching. I don't know if you feel this way too. You're watching a movie. They did it with the mole, and they're doing it with the trust, and they did it with the trust, and they're doing it with this, where you're watching it, and it's almost like these are characters and not actual real people playing a game. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does. It does.
I mean, the
Honest,
setup, the everything is beautiful.
it really is. Yeah, honestly. And it's entertaining. I think they'd had a pretty good job with the casting of this one. There's
I
some
think so
likable
too.
people. There's some people you want to kind of root against. You kind of always want a little bit of that.
Yeah, there's some I'll say, without spoiling, quite emotional people.
Yeah.
And some that, one particular towards the end got eliminated that was pretty even keeled until that person got eliminated and then he got really emotional. Probably what I'm talking about by
Mm-hmm.
just saying that. I think that kind of was his downfall because it's like he he unraveled right
Yeah.
away. Um, but yeah, it's a good show. I highly recommend. Charlie highly recommends, and we will be
Yeah,
talking about it next
if
week.
you like that kind of genre of show, I think it's up that alley. But you have to like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like the secret kind of moly kind of claim to fame. You guess who this person is. So you have the object of the show is one person is randomly selected as the millionaire, has $1 million in a box, and the other players have to guess who that millionaire is. One thing I will say, again, not spoiling it, but I'm not quite. One thing that is a little flawy about the show is that one know who the millionaire is and keep the millionaire in the show until it becomes time to eliminate them and then you get the money. You understand? Like it's a little wonky.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the only, if I was to make like a criticism of it, it's the only criticism. Like, why would you want to get the millionaire out?
Yeah, you're talking about as far as their own gameplay goes. They even
Ye-
discussed that at one point in one of the votes. We can get into more detail next time, but
Yeah.
they do definitely discuss the merits of do we want to actually get the millionaire out or not, especially if the millionaire isn't the one who they're on to, then that one doesn't want, keep the people that they're suspicious of longer. So,
And there is a point, and I don't think this is really spoiling it. There is a point where the others know who the millionaire is because something happens,
right.
and they
That's
still
the one
want to
thing
get
I
that
wanted to
person
mention.
out.
My one thing is, I wish that so another thing that basically the millionaire has this quote unquote agenda where they can do something successfully if they get an advantage, or if they're unsuccessful, they get a disadvantage. My thing with that is some of them they're just slightly too obvious. Like
Yeah.
there were a couple of them where for sure they weren't going to attempt to do them, but there were a couple where I was like, I'm surprised this person attempted to do it because it seemed like that would be way too suspicious of behavior. And
One,
when one of those comes back to bite a person, that's how they figure it out.
yeah,
That general.
I won't mention who or anything, but I will say so one of the agenda items, and I won't say what happens either, but one of the agenda items is the millionaire has to get other people to scream. And so the millionaire gets them to scream, but then later on in the trophy room, they find out that the person is related to a horror movie,
The
and then they
clue is
go,
just sitting on a silver
yeah.
platter.
And when I heard that, I'm like, oh shit, he's done. Like he's
Yeah.
done. I mean, my God. And I don't think that's fair necessarily.
I
And
mean,
you
he
don't
was
really
his
have a
choice to do it.
it was, but here's the thing. Yes, but you then get a penalty if you don't. So it's really not your choice.
Yeah, true. But
My thing
if
is if
no
you
one's
agree
on
to
to you,
do it,
if no one's on to you, what's the big deal if you get one vote on you? You know what I mean?
100%. But I think, I think one flaw would be if you agree to do it and you don't do it, then you get the penalty. But if you shouldn't be
Right.
forced into a situation where you're getting a penalty,
Or just make them more subtle, less easy to spot. Like
yeah,
screaming,
like on the mole.
immediately the people on the other veranda were like, "Oh, that's so obvious."
There was one person recording a confessional, and you could see this person go during the confessional because you can hear them scream outside. That's how loud
Yeah.
it was. So yeah, we highly recommend $1 Million Secrets, and we will be talking about that coming up. Well, we must talk about this.
And then from
Previously,
one confessional to another, Survivor.
Survivor. Ooh, you want to kind of go into what happened?
It was a very interesting post merge. Very interesting post merge.
Can I
They
ask a question real
Yeah,
quick before you get
go
into it?
ahead.
So I'm new to Survivor last couple of seasons, and why do they still call it the merge meal when only one person merges at that point?
That's true. That's a good point. I think it's just because the merge is still happening in the episode. So it's the
Right.
meal in which it happens. And then the team that won still is participating in the merge meal. They they just not all six might not necessarily make it through, but at least five of them
All
at the minimum. So I do see
right.
your point though.
But I just wanted to ask that question. Go for
Yeah.
it. Go
But
for
yeah, it
your.
started off with the first challenge where it was to your point, it was basically they got split up randomly in teams. They drew for teams, which Sai gets the draw of automatic pass into round two, which means she got
She's
to
so
just
lucky.
she got to do that without getting, muddy like crazy. And this was one of the I mean, this was by far one of the muddiest things I've ever seen. Every
Like
single
caked
one of
on
them,
mud.
every single one of them was just drenched.
So bad. It
But
was
the
so
winning
bad.
team advanced, and the losing team didn't. So everybody on the winning team got the meal, but then they competed within that group plus Psy for individual immunity,
Were
which
they
Kyle won. And I don't know if you saw, I can't remember who put it out there, but it's the second time they've had one of these, and someone named Kyle has won it each time, which
Was
is
that 2 seasons ago they did
yeah,
this? Yeah, and
exactly.
Kyle won. I was watching at that point, but yes, I
Yes,
remember
exactly. Yeah,
that.
that's why I brought it up because I knew you would have seen it.
Then
Yeah,
again, Kyle won like how many how many in a row?
yeah, five of them, four of them.
Oh my God. Hold on 1 second. I think my microphone just went out. There we go. All right. Yeah, so continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Kyle won, which then led to some immediately. Well, who are we gonna vote for? Because 13 people is quite a lot of votes. Quite a lot.
Lot. A lot. And there was some concern about one person over the other. I will say this. My I was surprised that Say escaped again. Um, I
Escaped is
was
the right
thinking
word. I had
she was
what
gonna go
five votes,
home.
right?
I will say this. She's quite annoying and irritating and obnoxious.
There's
That's
always a couple like that on every season.
I find her quite annoying and I would want to get rid of her.
Yeah,
You know
I
why?
think she's not long for it. She's gonna be one of the next ones.
Here's what irritates me, bro. so they get back from the reward from the meal, and she's literally laying on a hammock with her hands back, relaxing and going, "Yeah, we had this and we had this and we had
She
this and we
listed
had
off
this."
40
The
items.
edit was freaking phenomenal on that, by the
That
way.
was funny. I agree.
Fucking funny. And she's
Chocolate
like,
cake, and she's like
and they're just
listing
and
everything.
they look at the you look at the players listening like like the high rolls.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, will you shut up? Will you stop? Will you be quiet? Because this is not good for you. Her social game isn't exactly the best, I will say.
Yeah, the whole episode started with them talking about the previous vote, and she could not understand logic, and she's getting all mad, but Cedric saved her.
Yeah, Cedric, if you looked at the end of the show when they showed the votes, Cedric saved her. He again he voted for the I mean
You can only tell one person, otherwise they would know. And without
but
that, she goes home.
but Cedric gets one vote and it's from Say.
Yeah,
She voted for Cedric. Um, can we go back real quick? We didn't talk about this last week. So we were talking about in the previews. Jeff was crying and
oh
crying, and
yes,
in the challenge last week, Eva, right? Is
yeah,
that Eva had a difficult time in the challenge because she is on the spectrum. She has autism, and she was having a very difficult time with that particular challenge. And Joe, I believe,
yes,
she has a good relationship with him, and
from
he
their original tribe.
literally took her in his arms and calmed her down. And I will say, I legit almost shed a tear. Like, working with kids with special needs, I work a lot with kids on the spectrum. And when I saw that, and I saw just the compassion in Joe to help her like that, I was like, this dude, I don't care what he does going forward in the season. He's golden for me because he is
Yeah,
a freaking rock
and
star.
Jeff even noticed the moment and allowed it because they're on different teams at this moment.
And I will say I've never seen something that special on the show like that. And for those of you, if you don't understand, it's if you're on the spectrum, sometimes stimuli it's very hard to deal with. There's a lot, almost like you think about being in a room and there's like 15 million airplanes flying over and you can't think straight. That's kind of, a similar thought. And that's what was going. I don't know for sure. I don't want to quote her, but
Yeah,
something like that was probably going on. And that's why Joe kind of grabbed her head and tried to refocus her. And he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to out himself as being her friend and
right.
potentially hurt his game. He did it because he's a decent human being. And you know
Yeah,
what? We
he
need to
saw a
have
human
more of that.
struggling and he went to help.
And you know what? At the end of the day, it's I mean, I love the show. It's just a TV show. And if you can show that compassion that this world needs more of on a show like this and model for kids maybe watching the show to say, hey, this is how a man is and how a decent human being is and treating another human being. Damn, that's a win in my book. I don't care what
Definitely.
goes on for
He's
the rest of the
definitely going to be
season.
a fan favorite and probably got himself on another season in the future.
I need to see him on 50. I know that he's not in the rumors, but my God. I mean,
Yeah,
right now the person from the season that's on the rumor mill will say, of course, because why not? Oh man. Oh man. So yeah. So I think it's a pretty decent season. I again, I said this a couple episodes ago. I don't think it's as good as last season, but
yeah.
it's a decent
Well,
season.
now that we finally have a big 13 and they're going to have to start cannibalizing, it could end up because honestly, a lot of the bigger threats this episode kind of seem to be forming groups together. So if it goes that way and they are able to kind of pick them off, kind of like old school, it could end up being a battle for like the last six, seven people. So the fact that you still have like David and Kyle and like a lot of the strong players are still left. They haven't really taken a huge shot at someone yet. So
What do we
it
think?
could make for a
What do
good
we think of
finish.
this? What do you think of the secret duo? Like the people that are kind of totally under the radar, and I
Yeah,
forget their names. There's two there.
It's Kyle and somebody. Yeah.
Yes.
I forget her name. But yeah, that's a good one. She
No one's
reminds me a lot of
expecting.
Natalie from a few seasons back.
Yes. I know who you're talking about. Yes. It's interesting. There's definitely there's definitely a familiarity there. And Jeff did hint at the beginning of the season that it is a season of duos, and I get exactly what he's saying. Um,
Because even Joe as well. And
Cedric didn't say for better or for worse. I mean,
yeah,
they
right.
um I think that's still going to be a story, honestly. Cedric, I don't know if Cedric has the emotional capacity to go much further in the game. He has a hard time with it, it seems. Um,
Yeah. I still
uh,
feel like there's more bigger fish to fry, so to speak. I feel like Cedric is safe at least another couple weeks, couple votes. Because people want Say out. And then you also have those huge targets. Eventually, they're going to have to go for some of the big ones like David and Kyle and some of
I
the
think
others.
the biggest threat right now on the show is David. Honestly, his social game is
I
right on
know
par.
he's
I see him going far.
he's a favorite.
Yeah. I mean, I see
David,
him going
Kyle,
far.
Joe, Eva. There are a lot of good players. Even honestly, you know who's playing a super good game that I mean, people know about him, but is Mitch.
Yeah, I love
Mitch is
Mitch.
playing a really good game. Like even the challenge where they were like throwing the sandbags and landing, he nailed all of them for his own team. He's been doing really well with the puzzles.
Oh, I think he goes to top five easily.
Yeah,
I think he
he's a
goes
threat
far.
to win the game too.
Yeah, I think he goes far. I think you might even see him in fire making. I think he goes far. I think he the way they're editing it, it seems like he is it's gonna be David, Mitch, Eva, possibly, or Joe. One of the two. One of the two is gonna go out early, I feel, and one
Yeah.
is gonna kind of go far.
If they all really are true to their word and want to play a game of honor and integrity like they've all been saying, there's six or seven of them strong that could be the final, maybe not the final six because they might not win every time or someone might play an idol, but out of that group of six or seven, three or four of them should probably be in the final five. I'd
Yeah.
be pretty surprised if they weren't.
Yeah, it's a pretty I find it's a pretty predictable season. I don't think there are gonna be any dark horses. I think it's gonna play out kind of how we expect it to. Um and I kind of feel like Say is gonna last a little longer than we would think.
Yeah,
It's just almost like
interesting. It's interesting with a few of the advantages out there that most players know about, which Psy knew none of and got all that information today. So she was a little surprised by it. But the fact that a bunch of that's out there and known, but there's also a couple that are unknown.
mhm.
Maybe one week when they're feel confident that they're flushing out one of these things, someone uses something that they're unaware of, and it could cause some chaos. So
Boom. Ooh. Exactly. It's like, ooh, but that makes the greatest TV though when that happens. I
right.
love that. It's like, ooh, I love those tribal councils where everyone's like kind of doing whiplash because they're moving their head so much they don't know what's going on.
Like
I
tonight's
love
tribal,
that.
I'm sure they always do it, so it's more shocking in how he'd pick them perfectly. But by the first eight votes, five of them were for Psy, and everybody was like, "Oh, she's definitely going home." And then all of a sudden, the last five votes in a row are Charity. So
Charity, yeah. It was interesting because a lot of them went to tribal for the first time, so they were voting for the first time. One literally took the marker and it flipped out of their hand, and it was like they were kids on Christmas Day. Big survive.
yeah,
I can imagine a Survivor fan being there for the first time and going,
yeah,
like you could see it.
one person. It was their first time at tribal.
Yeah, and I think one was like, "Why is this shaped like a pineapple or something like that?" I
Yeah,
forget what they said. Yeah, it's cool. I that would be a bucket thing. I mean, the bugs and everything else are a little bit to deal with, but to vote on Survivor, I mean, my God, and to have
yeah,
have your torch and yeah,
definitely.
who knows? You never know what'll happen in the future. So yeah, so Charity was voted out. Once again, saves it for another day. I do predict at the beginning of the next episode, there's going to be a little bit of drama going back to camp, possibly because
Oh,
Say doesn't take
definitely.
things well.
And I think a lot of the people that voted The five that voted say, I think, are were pretty blindsided, Mitch included. I think he's going to be a little. We'll see how he plays that one.
Oh, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Speaking of playing things and strategy, and let's talk about the floor. Uh, so there
It
was a
was
lot of turnover in the episode.
a lot, a lot.
I
And
felt
you had people playing multiple times, even though they were picked and then went back and then picked again. And
I felt bad for that dude who won so many duels and didn't even get a cash in on
I
that.
know. See, that's
Man,
where right before it happened, we got to that point again where this is what I said. What my thought was, yeah, at that moment he had 29 pieces of the floor. The odds were in his favor that the randomizer was going to pick one that was next to him. And any one of them that was touching him, no matter what, was going to play because it was a new category for him. He hadn't had time
I
to
said that
study
to Erica. I'm like,
and they had
there's
20K on the line. So knowing that, why
you pick your
wouldn't you
category.
pick the one you want to play the most?
Thank you. I said that to Erica. I'm like, there's, they're all gonna pick. I mean, the odds suck, dude. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
And the only caveat I had was if he felt his own category would be that one he'd pick. But there's no way that would have been it. There's no way. There was 29 other choices. There
And there
had
are
to be
some
one he
decent
liked better.
choices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
one I
was a
thought he kind of shot himself in the foot again.
that was a butthead move. I'm sorry, that was a butthead move to do that. You don't do that. I just think if you're in it that long, you didn't have he didn't have time to study his new
For the
category.
small chance that he would get unpicked, I think the greater chance of controlling what you want to play made the more sense there. But we weren't there under those bright lights. We've been under some bright lights, but not those.
So I was wondering during the episode if he would make a pathway to Brian to try to like have a monopoly on the floor. Brian was picked by someone, I mean, adjacent, and Brian was smart. Brian won his duel and did the smart thing. I said to Eric, I go, you already won $110,000. You go back to the floor and you let people come after you because you're not
For
the biggest fish
sure.
on
He's
he's
already
not the
got that.
biggest fish.
Yeah, he's playing with house money at this moment. Totally
So
agree.
you totally, you're like, yeah,
Go
all right,
back,
come on.
try to get through another night and then study again.
Exactly. The reason why we haven't seen Brian in a couple episodes is because he's not the biggest fish anymore. And
Right.
that's
People
what
are
you
going for the
want.
money. Exactly.
Win the money early, get a lot of floor, but then let somebody else kind of start taking the control. And then all of a sudden, you don't have the winning amount of floor anymore, but that's okay because you won some money and you let
Hmm.
other people take the hit. And that's
Yep.
kind of what Brian's doing. I predict Brian will probably go to the finale, the way it's working out.
Hmm.
There are some new squares that are still adjacent to him on the right, on the edge. So we'll see how that plays out. But he's a very good player.
He is.
You know,
He is.
I mean,
And
he's also a great
one
actor.
other thing we have to mention on this episode of the floor, which you gave me a warning, and even with the warning, I had just an audible gasp. I'm
We
sorry, but
are,
if you live in the United States and you do not know who Jackie Robinson is, what are you doing on a game show about trivia? I'm sorry, but no.
dude. They
That is unacceptable.
So the category was game changers, and these are people that made, by the way, which is a inference clue in itself. These are people that made a difference somehow in their fields or in life, in pop culture, etc. So people like Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and Abby Hoffman. These are names that are, and I'm a history guy. These are synonymous with like major events that have Harvey Milk that have happened in forwarding and advancing social cause. So when they showed, like you said, when they showed the picture of Jackie Robinson, what does she do? Pass. What?
I gasped.
What? Now, I understand it being before your time, But the image of Jackie Robinson is cemented in pop culture.
In
You
history
he
books.
his baseball card, for God's sakes, is one of the most collected. 1952 tops is one of the most collected. It wasn't even his rookie card, because rookie was like 48. Is one of the most collected baseball cards that there is. Because 50, by the way, just real quick for collectors, 1952 Topps is the first year that Topps came out with baseball cards. Prior to that, we had Bowman in 1951, which was Mickey Mantle's first baseball card. But I will say that image, I wear it on a shirt sometimes. Uh, but just in general, the movie 42 happened a couple years ago with Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, which is one of my favorite baseball movies. There's so many references in history and pop culture to
How about
Jackie.
every single Major League Baseball team with the number 42 retired?
Right.
How about the entire league wearing only 42 for a
On
whole
Jackie
day?
Robinson Day. Yeah. I mean, we like, we're fans of baseballism and homage, and they have shirts that are, I mean, there's references all over the place. It is, I was, along with your audible gasp, I was a little kind of disgusted that she didn't know it. I was a little upset. Um, I don't know, like, it just really innately
Yeah,
bothered me because
there were a few answers in the episode that people did not know,
you
but that
don't
one was the
rem
one was that
don't know
one.
the color barrier in baseball. Like, I understand you don't know. I even understand if you don't know who Mickey Mantle is, which I would be surprised if you didn't. Not you, but a person in general. There's several baseball players that kind of transcend the sport. I
Mhm.
can kind of name them as Jackie Robinson, Roberto Clemente, Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. I mean, there are players that should be recognizable to almost anyone, even modern players like Ken Griffey Jr. and Pete Rose and even Mike Trout. I mean, there's players that people just know who they are. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's all I can say is wow.
yeah,
But
that's
Jackie, who's one of my favorite baseball players ever, who unfortunately, I was a year old when he passed away. Um, he's so important to the sport. Like, so not just to the sport, but to the country. Just so important. Why, listen, I get on a baseball soapbox like you do, buddy. I just was wow.
yeah.
And I would argue, honestly, and I'll probably get some hate out there. I'd argue Jackie Robinson's more important to the sport than any player that's ever played the sport, quite
I don't think you
frankly.
get much hate for that. I think
No,
that's
I mean,
the
those
right answer.
Babe Ruth purists out there and stuff like that. But Babe was great too, but for other reasons. Um, yeah. Oof. So yeah, we love Jackie. When Jackie Robinson Day is coming up, it's in April, right?
It is.
It's
It's in
April
April. Yeah,
17th, I
right
think,
around
around
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Thanks to you, I spent some money and bought some Jackie Robinson stuff that I can't wait to wear. I can never pass up a Jackie Robinson shirt or yeah, love it. All right, so four is continuing. We love it. We'll see where it goes. And anything else you want to discuss?
Just be a few episodes left there.
Yeah. Anything else you want to
Yeah,
discuss?
I think we covered it. Yeah.
I think so too. Sorry about the soapbox, buddy.
No, it's all right. It needed to be done.
Ooh, has to be said.
We got the Mets and the Cubs home openers today, tomorrow, whatever you want to look at it. So let's keep winning some series, one game at a time.
One game at a time. And hopefully the Cubs and the Mets have a winning season, so much so that we face each other in the NLCS. How about
That'd be
that?
wild.
How about that? This
That
has
would
been
be
Around
wild.
the Bases, the pop culture and sports podcast with your host.
Charlie Seymour.
And I'm Tim Sternberg. Until next week, go Cubs and go Mets. Bye, everybody.